When it comes to our children, and part of their tarbiyah is that we make sure that, number one, we keep a very close eye on what they are reading. Because what they are reading is they're looking into the book, they're reading information, and they're internalizing it. Now, I'm not saying that reading a book is something wrong with it, but what's happening is that there are now many books in our libraries where they are promoting the idea of LGBTQ. They are promoting this idea of indecency and immorality, and they're including immorality in our children's books. So as parents, first of all, is that when your children go to the library and they pick up books, it is part of our responsibility as parents that we vet out and we go through the books that they want to read. If your child wants to read a book that you have absolutely no idea what it is, then it is your job and your responsibility that you do your simple research that what is this book about. Now, I will say this, there are many books that our children are reading today in schools that perhaps you and I as parents who grew up here in this country have probably read in our schools too. And you know that they're absolutely clean, they're pure, they're kosher, there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong for your kids to read those kind of books. But the point I'm trying to make is that, number one, when it comes to books, it is very important that we know what our kids are reading. Now, you think that, okay, when it comes to books written by Muslims, okay, we should be okay there. And unfortunately, that's not the situation. I recently came across a message that was sent to me by someone that where there was a book written by a Muslim woman who is writing about a Muslim character who is in a hijab, and she introduces herself that she is gay. Now, once again, these are ideas written, or these are books written by Muslims. These kind of books, they have a girl on it with a hijab on it. You would think as a Muslim parent that this has to be a good, legit book. But unfortunately, now we do have Muslims who are writing these kind of books. So therefore, it becomes our job and our responsibility that we make sure that we go through and we do our research on the books that our children choose to read. That's number one. Number two is, because once again, we're talking about how they take in information. Our kids watch a lot of TV. They watch a lot of YouTube. They watch, and there's so many other, ways of watching films and TV shows and so forth. It is very important that we know what our kids are watching. And the reason why I say this is because even if you have them watch the most basic things that are coming, something that's considered as public television and so forth, television that you don't even have to pay for is public television, educational information and so forth. But unfortunately, what they're trying to do is that we live in a society where there is an indoctrination that is taking place against our children. They are trying to find ways to introduce these ideas of immorality and homosexuality and so forth, and they're trying to normalize it to such an extent that they're putting these kind of content in our cartoons, in the cartoons that our kids are watching, and they're being labeled as educational cartoons. Now, yes, for the most part, they are educational. Once again, for the most part, they are educational. And yes, you might want your kids to watch these kind of shows because they're educational. They teach them vocabulary, English, math, and so forth. There's nothing wrong with them. But at the same time, as parents, we have to know what our kids are watching. You cannot give your kids a free rein. Just go ahead and watch everything, because time to time, there are some certain things that we are seeing on television, even in educational television, which are very inappropriate for our kids to be exposed to. In fact, when it comes to even movies, a lot of our parents, we let our kids watch any kind of movie they want. No, even when it comes to, first of all, when it comes to adult movies, in the sense like where they are like, adult movies in the sense like where, adults would watch them, that, they have a story, there's a fictional story and so forth. A lot of times, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about even, animation movies that you would think that, they're dedicated. They've been created for kids and families. Especially if you look at the family genre, you'll find many movies in there, especially animated movies. But even in those animated movies, you'll find a lot of concepts, about romance and lovemaking and so forth that are very inappropriate for our children at this age. And so therefore, it is absolutely important for our parents that we make sure that we know what our kids are watching. You don't give them a free rein. Go ahead and watch whatever you want. But no, in fact, I know some parents that what they do is that they first watch the movie that their kids intend to watch, or they watch the movie before they want to perhaps show the movie to their kids. And in that way, they make sure that if it's kosher, if it's absolutely fine, no problem with it. But we have to be very careful as parents to know what our kids are watching. Once again, brothers and sisters, when there is a fasad, when the aqidah becomes corrupt, when the morals become corrupt, when the ideology becomes corrupt, our simple ideology and our understanding about Islam, it becomes corrupt not overnight, but slowly and gradually. This has been the principle throughout history, that when corruption comes, it does not come overnight, but it comes slowly and gradually. So when our kids are reading something, or they are reading something, they're watching something, so we have to, in those kind of situations, once again, that's why I explained the first part was that how we internalize information. But then the next part is that we don't have to get into this debate that why am I not showing them this cartoon, or why am I not letting them watch this TV show? We don't have to get into this debate at that time, because they are so young that they may not understand the hikmah of you not letting them watch that TV show, or you not letting them read that particular book and so forth. You don't have to get into that debate at that time, because their minds are not mature enough to understand this. And so that is why we don't have to get into that debate, but we simply, as parents, we take away those books and we try to replace it with something. You cannot take something and not replace it with something. Take it, but replace it with something that's even better. So, this is something that, of course, we see this over and over again. And subhanAllah, we see this happening in America over and over again. And it's not happening only here in America. It's happening all over the world, where different concepts are being introduced to our kids in a very subliminal way.